School books are always a matter of controversy in India. Whether Ashoka the Great and Akbar the Great, are they great? All these are matters which is subjected to immense number of discussion and deliberation among the historians and academicians. Whether Samudragupta can be called as Indian Napoleon, whether Kalidasa is called the Shakespeare of India, are all these debatable. Ranging from school books have always created controversy, ranging from Rajasthan, School Board, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and now in Karnataka. So why are the people in Karnataka protesting against the school textbooks? What is the Karnataka school textbook controversy? Why are the Brahmana Sabha protesting in the streets? And why are the Vokaligas and Veerashaiva Lingayats and even Dalit community protesting against the books? And why are the writers and thinkers of Karnataka protesting against the school textbook? So what is this controversy? Let's find out all the answers in LearnStroke's ExplainWallah for IAS. So we can attribute the start of this controversy to around December 2020, when the Karnataka Brahmana Sabha really protested against the class 6 standard social science textbook, especially regarding the chapter called the culture of early Vedic period. And the Vedic society and the Vedic culture was the main problem that they discussed. And the biggest reason why they protested is because the chapter contained various references to the sacrifices, and the Vedic society is always known for different type of sacrifices, right from to get a good son, to get a good cattle, everything was revolving around sacrifices. So they discussed different type of sacrifices where you see that ghee, milk, cereals were actually being offered as a sacrifice, and even animals were sacrificed. So everything related to sacrifice was discussed. But this book clearly said that since Vedic period was discussing about sacrifices of ghee, milk, cereals, animals, everything, all of this contributed to the food shortage in Vedic period. So offering ghee, cereals, milk created a food shortage during that period, and all these yajnas and sacrifices were the sole reason why there was a big acute shortage of food production in those times. This was severely criticized by the Karnataka Brahmin Sabha, and that is the reason why they even met the chief minister and demanded that the school curriculum cannot continue like this and this has to change. So what was the only alternate? Anyway, government was concerned about changing the curriculum. That is when by September 2021 you can say that the Chakra Tirtha committee was created. Previously they were interested to revise the books of 6 to 8. Now they were given a task to revise the school books from class 1 to 10, and the Chakra Tirtha committee was created to revise whatever changes they have to really make. And once they published it in the online, the people say that the chapter on Vedic culture and new age religion, especially Islam and Christianity, was not to be seen anywhere. But the real problem happened when the Chakratirtha committee gave the report, and now after that a series of protests are started. And the people, even the senior leaders, say that the committee has no right to revise. The committee has only right to examine and suggest. So that created a lot of controversy, and now we have to see why the Dalits in India have a big time problem with the revision. They have really protested. Let's check out why the Dalits have protesting with the book changes. When you talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he is one of the biggest icons of India. And when you talk about from the perspective of Dalit community, he was one of the biggest saviors that won the Dalit communities the rights that they really wanted to get in India. And the reason why the Dalits are protesting is again because of the mention of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the chapter Constitution. So it was previously, they had mentions about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the lead architect of Indian Constitution. He was the chairman of the drafting committee. It was out of his outstanding efforts, and he was the main architect of Indian Constitution, is something people know. But when the revised document or the book came out, the importance of Ambedkar was lost in the book. From being the chief architect of Indian Constitution, it simply mentioned that Ambedkar is just a member one of the important chairmen of the committees, and he is just an important leader. But the lead architect of constitution and all these aspects were missing in the text. And even his contribution to eradicate untouchability in India, he played a very pivotal part in against the crusade of untouchability in India. Even that was not clearly mentioned and given prominence in the book. And in the detail, it says that among Jyotiba Phule, Swami Vivekananda, Ambedkar also played a very important role for the eradication of untouchability in India. So that is like downsizing the importance of Ambedkar. And not only that, and they did not give proper importance to Sri Narayana Guru, even Periyar. So that created a lot of problem among the Dalit community, especially the reform angle and importance of Ambedkar was downplayed. That is why many of them have a big time protest for that. The next important controversy came from Veerashaivites or Lingayat. When you talk about Veerashaiva and Lingayat, the first thing that comes into our mind is Basava, Basaveshwara or Basavanna, the 12th century Indian statesman, poet, socio-reformer, and he was a Hindu Shaivite Bhakta. He used to spread his social messages through poetry called as Vachana, and he even had something called as an Ishtalinga with a necklace. It's a necklace with the Shivalinga. So he was totally against the caste system. He was totally against the social discrimination, the gender discrimination, and he did not believe in superstitions, rituals, etc. He basically wanted to reform the Veerashaiva movement and with simple values of human life, etc. But when the textbooks of Karnataka, in the chapters socio-religious reformers, they did not mention the original history of Basavanna. That was a real problem that happened. So there is an instance, he was totally against the caste system, and what happened is he threw away his sacred thread after the Upanayana, which is a sacred program of the Brahmins, and he completely threw away the sacred thread and he went to Kudala Sangama, very important place which is important to the Veerashaiva people. But what happened is this was a protest against the caste system. But when the thing came in the textbook, it simply mentioned that Basavanna, after the sacred ceremony, the thread ceremony, he went to Kudala Sangama. That means his real history was not reflected. And he also mentioned that the different ways of reforming Veerashaiva, but the book simply said he simply reformed the Veerashaiva movement. So the people, the Lingayat people, the community and the Veerashaivas really believe that this is a gross misrepresentation of the true values and the history of Basavanna. That is not clearly mentioned in the books. So that is why the Veerashaivas and Lingayats are really protesting against this. The next section of protest comes from the Vokkaligas and the other writers. So Vokkaligas, when you talk about very old people, historically very old and powerful people since the history of Karnataka, and people say that historians say that even the Rashtrakutas and Gangas, Western Gangas people were actually of Vokkaliga origin, and some of the Vokkaligas enjoyed high position. The warriors enjoyed high position in the Vijayanagara Empire, so that they have a huge history of them. And this people apparently have a big time problem regarding the Chakratirtha, because apparently Chakratirtha disrespectfully treated the Nada Gita, the state anthem, which was written by the great legendary Kannada poet and writer Kuvempu. So all this started with a Facebook post of 2017 when apparently Chakratirtha actually satirically made a comment regarding the state anthem, the Nada Gita, and regarding the Kuvempu. So it was his Facebook post which created a lot of controversy, and the Vokkaligas seriously treat the disrespect of the great legendary Kuvempu and the state anthem with seriousness, and they're totally seeing it as a complete insult. And even many important sections of the writers see that the new textbooks does not carry the prominent works of distinguished writers. They have brought down many works of distinguished writers in the books. So that is why majority of them, including the Vokkaligas, are creating a big time protest regarding this. So this was regarding the Karnataka textbook controversy. When you talk about Karnataka textbook controversy, you need to briefly analyze the history of textbook controversy in the last few years. And that does not limit to Karnataka. There are other areas. And when let's talk about the important West Bengal's school textbook that happened, and initially they mentioned a statement called as the revolutionary periods were categorized as terrorist, revolutionary terrorist. And even those period, the revolutionaries during that time, say during the partition of Bengal, and even that after that, Prafulla Chaki, Madan Lal Dhingra, and even Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, who were all resorting to violent measures and who all resorted to their own kind of nationalism, were treated as terrorists. So imagine how Subhash Chandra Bose and Bhagat Singh were terrorists. Initially, the historians say that they should have been called the militant nationalists. That was not a period of revolutionary terrorism, which is a gross injustice to the efforts they have taken. That should have been called as militant nationalism. So that was some controversy that came up when you need to mention whether he's a terrorist or not. And then even Maharashtra school boards did not have histories regarding the history of Western country and even history of Mughals in the books. And the Gujarat books sometimes even mention the Parsis, Muslims and Christians as foreigners. And Rajasthan textbooks sometimes dropped the importance of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. And the most interesting one which Rajasthan again came out was the Battle of Haldighati, Akbar versus Maharana Pratap. So what happens is history normal tells that this war was inconclusive. So it's a debatable question whether Akbar won or Maharana Pratap won. But Rajasthan government came up with the definition that it's not inconclusive. Maharana Pratap won and defeated Akbar in the Battle of Haldighati. So the list goes on where you come across different type of controversies. Even Ambedkar is in the controversy for a long time. So what happens is redefining history and redefining the contributions of the past people is really a difficult thing to be done. And until you don't do it with diligence, such controversies in textbooks keep happening.